A.L. Walker?
Yeah, Audley, yeah. You know, Audley is the only human I ever seen could see in the dark. He didn't even need a flashlight. And he'd say, watch that copperhead over there. but anyhow, me and that guy was down Lake Fannin one night. We was coon hunting down there, and Doodle Gibbs had a bunch of Bramer cattle in there. And he had a big Bramer bull. And that Bramer bull got after me and this guy. And I climbed a tree and he jumped in the back of the pickup. And I thought that bull was going to turn that pickup over. I mean, he had them horns out there, it raising that pickup plumb up off the ground, one side of it, you know. Of course, I'm up in that tree. I told him, jump up here and get hold of this limb, get up in this tree, he's going to kill you. Finally, that old bull, finally, I guess, decided he couldn't turn the pickup over, and he bawled a few times, Buddy did a few more times and left. But I said, what was his name? He lived back up there right north of Ravenna on the west side back in there.
A black man?
Yeah.
Would it have been Joe Choice?
Joe Choice, you got it.
Joe
yeah,
Choice.
Yeah.
Now,
We've lived through an era of life that will never be relived in America. And I wouldn't take $1 million for the life that I've had. Now, I ain't going to say that it was all fun because we worked like slaves. Especially after my dad died. I was 13 years old, Dad died, and I made my living ever since. I ain't never been hungry a day. But some of them was tough.
I said he'd been driven the bus, yeah.
Yeah, but them other kids don't believe it. You can tell them, I never will forget Wade Richardson and old man Frank Brown. And I can't remember who that other one was. I'll think of his name in a minute, but you know, they'd pick up them kids over at Bailey English first, and then they'd drive over to high school, you know. And they'd wait till school was out, you know, to pick up the high school kid. Well, of course, Mr. Brown and old Wade, they liked flowers, especially roses, 4 of them at a time, you know. They got over there one time and got in a fist fight there on the school ground. And us kids, I bet there's 100 of us out there cheering them on. I never will forget that. If let's do that now, they put them in a pen.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Now, when you say they were interested in flowers, you mean real roses? I mean, they cultivated...
Whiskey, 4 roses.
I'm sorry, Mickey. That went right over my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
okay, that makes the story make sense now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they liked them roses.
Okay. You told that story about the man who rescued the 2 guys over on the Goss farm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what year that was. Now, my grandpa come to this country in the mid-1880s. And I guess that he probably just kind of cowboyed and whatever for a while before he settled down and went farming. But anyway, that bunch that run that Goss farm in, well, they just used that whole country down there to run their cattle. They just run loose. And he'd just get a bunch of cowboys, you know, and they'd round them up.
Including your grandfather?
Yeah. And he hit my grandpa and his brother. They'd go down there, you know, in a week or two, whatever it took to round them cattle up, you know, I was just a little extra money for them. And they got down there and they saw what kind of a deal was going on down there. They said them guys were just prisoners. And he said they'd go out there in the morning, said they had a big corral there, and said they had one old horse in there that's crazy. Said they couldn't do nobody messing with him. And he said they'd just rope their horses out and leave their regular horses in there with that old crazy. He said one morning they was getting their horses up in that corral. Said a guy rode up, hit him up for a job. And this guy told him, said, yeah, just go out there and rope that horse out there in the corral there and saddle him up and put leave yours in there, and we'll ride this until dinner, and then we'll come back and get the other horses. Well, he said that old boy went out there and said that old horse just went crazy. Said he just roped him, drug him up to a snubbing post, snubbed him up to that post. Said he hopped up on it and got him a mane hold and just took his knife and reached down and cut the throat in two. He said he had never seen such a ride pulled in his life. Said he rode that old bronc, said it just till it just stood and went to shaking. He said that guy got off that horse and told that old boy, he said, I want to tell you something right now. He said, I shoot just exactly like a ride. And he'd laugh about that. Then he got to telling about when they got all the cattle rounded up and back on this side of the river. They had, some of them was on the other side of the river. He said, two of these guys told him, he told them he was going to leave the next morning, and they said, well, we'd like to go with you, but he said, they'd just kill us. He said, well, if you go with me, they ain't going to kill you. He said, next morning, he said, when they got up, all three of them was gone. And he said about 3 or 4 years later, said he run across that guy out in West Texas. And I don't remember just exactly where it was at, but he asked this guy, said, them guys and dogs ever catch up to y'all and y'all left down there? He said, yeah. He said, they caught up with us, said they're still laying down there on the river. No, he said he didn't ask him no more. He'd heard enough. Yeah, I said, the boy told him. Said, yeah, they caught up with him. Said they're still laying down on the river.
My goodness. You make the comment, and I'm going to emphasize this in the story, that people nowadays don't know how much history, real history, that we have here in Fannin County.
Oh, no. And the thing about it is, how much of it is the truth and how much is a lie. And I'm going to give you a for instance here. My granddad come here from Taney County, Missouri. His folks was all Indians. And I guess his mother must have been a white woman. I'm just guessing now, I don't. But because I used to have her diploma where she graduated from high school. But they tell you all kinds of tales about what happened to, about the Indians and stuff. And 90% of what is in them history books as we know it today ain't nothing but a lie. Just a bald-faced lie. I've heard my granddad tell about, I guess it was his granddad, when they moved them Indians out over the Trail of Tears. Said some of them, they had brick homes and was a farming, had plantations down there in Georgia.
Indians.
and they rounded them Indians up. They wanted that land and all that gold in them hills down there. And they wouldn't let them people, and of course a lot of them Indians had colored slaves. And he said all they let them take with is what they could get in one buggy. And he said you couldn't put enough stuff to eat in a buggy to make it from down there to Fannin County or over here. But it was over here in Oklahoma where they was going. And the main thing I wanted to tell you about that is most of them Indians was Baptist. Some of them was Holiness, but most of them was Baptist. And my folks was Baptist. Well, he told me that story, and I thought, well, that can't be right. So I got to checking, and I found out but all the things in the history books, and also something else he's told me many a time. Of course, my granddad liked to play the fiddle too. And one of his favorite songs was Maggie. They'd play that Maggie and he'd go to crying. Now, I don't know whether Maggie was one of his old girlfriends, whether it was somebody, the folks that died or what, and he never said. He never said, never, and I thought that was a doggone thing. But anyway, Granddad said that the fiddle saved more lives than the rifle did when the white man went west, because one of his daddy's brothers went to the gold rush in 1849. Now, what would an Indian be wanting to go to the gold rush for? I mean, that's crazy.
You said that the Indians liked the music.
Oh, they loved it. He said that they just ride along there in the brush area, you know, and when they camped at night, when they got through with their supper and stuff, well, they'd get them banjos and fiddles and guitar stuff out, mandolins. He said them Indians just sat right back and listened. And I'm sure that was the truth, because you're looking at the guy that's went to many a bluegrass festival. And one of my grandpa's brother's boys, I don't remember what his real name was, but they called him Red. And there was a little bitty Indian guy about this tall that was a world champ fiddler. And he learned Texas Shorty and Red to play the fiddle. And that guy, he'd come to our house, he didn't want to do nothing else. That's all he wanted to do was play that fiddle. And work was out. I mean, it was the fiddle. He was going to play that fiddle. But I thought about that many a time, about Grandpa talking about them, how them Indians loved that fiddle music. And I was down at Hugo one time at Bluegrass Festival, and I was listening to some guys that played to make records, you know, down there at Nashville. And this guy this fiddler, he had a case with two fiddles in it. And there's no Indian boy walked up there, and he had the raggedest set of clothes on I ever seen, and had his boots just duct taped to hold them on his feet. He asked this guy if he cared for him playing one of his fiddles, and he said, no. I said, that's what I brought him for. That Indian, he reached down there and got one of them fiddles. And these guys he was practicing playing with, you know, that this other guy was playing with, asked him what he wanted to play. He said, just whatever y'all was practicing on for the stage, it don't make no difference to me what it is. Well, they went off singing this song, you know. Well, he could hit every note they could. I mean, that Indian could play that fiddle just like that other guy could. And me and this guy was talking to the man on the fiddle. He said, you know, he said, I don't know who this guy is, but I can tell you one thing right now. He said, I can tell you exactly who learned him how to play the fiddle. And I said, you can? He said, yeah, the same man learned me to play. I said, how do you know? He said, he's got every lick I've got. And he said, he told me what the man's name was down in East Texas. Anyway, they got through playing a few songs, and this Indian got ready to move on, you know, and he laid this guy's fiddle down, and this guy told him, said, I'd like the way you play that fiddle. And he said, I can tell you who learned you how to play that fiddle. And the Indian boy said, I bet you can't. That guy told him, said, yeah, his name, I believe he said his name was Sullivan from down in East Texas. That guy's eyes got that big around. He said, how'd you know? He said, well, he learned me to play too. Said, you've got every lick I've got. But I've laughed about that many a time.
Well, you're still playing music though. Now tell me, when did you start playing music, and what instrument did you play? And you sing too, as I understand it.
Well, whenever I was a kid, we had a wind charger on the house, you know, for lights. That's before the days of electricity. And one of them guys played a harmonica when he'd come on the show. So my mother, all my uncles could play. Of course, back in them days,
play what? Play the.
Well, they played fiddles, guitars, harmonicas. They played them. What do you call them? Juice harps. But anyway, when I was just a little old kid, I learned to play the harmonica right off the bat. I could play that theme song for Just Plain Bill as good as he could. After a little while, I'd steal Mother's harmonica and get outside the house and wait. Of course, them old houses, you know, they didn't have no insulation. They had the windows up in the summertime. If you didn't, you'd burn up. So I learned right off the bat to play that harmonica. And then, back in them days, they didn't want the kids, the men that had the instruments and played, didn't want the kids mucking with the instruments because they couldn't afford to buy new ones. But anyway, what I started to say, by the time I was nearly old enough to walk, I was interested in music. Well, my Uncle Dave Wisenhunt, he brought an old guitar and a Kalamazoo mandolin over at the house. He was going off to work somewhere, I guess probably working on one of them. He built a lot of barracks for the troops. And they didn't show me no chords on them things or nothing. But my granddad was kin to the Monroes, and he had every record that Bill and Charlie Monroe ever made in one of them old wind-up Victrolas. Well, I finally got in there with that guitar, and I finally figured out how to tune this guitar with them. And Maybelle and A.P. and Maybelle Carter had a tune that they called the Wildwood Flower.
With the roses so red and the lilies so fair, and the myrtle so bright with emerald dew, the pale and the leader and eyes look like blue. I will dance, I will sing in my love shall begin. I will charm every.
But anyway, it wasn't long till that Wildwood Flower was coming right on out of that guitar.
That you were playing.
Yeah, and then I got that mandolin. You know, I finally figured out that the mandolin and the guitar, they're played by position, and you just move down the neck of her, and when you find where they're at, you get after it. We'd gag up and have them jam sessions, and I played with Ricky Skaggs and everybody else.
Around here?
Over at Hugo.
Yeah, around
years
Hugo.
ago, yeah.
Okay.
We had guys that lived around here and come through that could play just as good as anybody in Nashville, Tennessee could, or anywhere else. And in fact, they had a big Indian guy lived over on the river there. His name is Lois Landers. And Lois Landers, they ain't never been nobody, I don't guess, could beat him playing the fiddle, but he could play anything. And him and Uncle David Wisenhunt, John and Jess Dale, two colored men from Bonham, and there was an old man, I believe his name was Fate Van Hoosier. He played at Nashville, Tennessee, and he'd come through, and all them Burgers, Victor Burger played, Billy Burger played, and there's a bunch of them Burgers, and every time these old men had come through, well, they'd gang up and they'd play music. And of course, back in them days, we didn't have nothing, no TVs, and no electricity, no nothing. They just go to somebody's house and play out in the yard, you know, if it's pretty weather. And that's where, by the time I was nearly old enough to crawl, I was interested in music. And my dad, I never saw but two guys till had played for years and years and been to bluegrass festivals everywhere. I never saw but two men that could, I guess you'd call it clogging. They could beat out a tune with their feet. And I've seen my dad get up a many a time at night, put them brogans on, they'd be playing one of them old breakdowns, and he could just beat out a tune with his feet. Bill Kirkpatrick could do the same thing to a bluegrass festival. And they had an Indian boy on there, was just like a toothpick and about 6'6", 6'8". And he put on a show that would, my dad had been proud of him because that guy could beat out a tune with his feet too. And I'm telling you that was worth all. I told my wife, I said if I hadn't seen nothing else, it was worth it to listen to that guy play that tune with his feet. I mean, that guy's playing that fiddle, and that boy was dancing. I mean, he had it.
Now, did you ever play with a group? You played with your uncle, but did you all ever play as an organized group around in the county or any place like that?
No. I played up there at Bonham for years with John Kelton and that bunch up there. But as far as playing, I just go with Uncle Dave Wisnut. He was an old man.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't even give me time to tune it. I mean, he'd start playing it. He left to play them old waltzes. And them old breakdowns too, old Sally Gooden and Billy in the Low Ground and that kind of stuff. And he needed somebody to come see him and play. He liked to play that fiddle. And I'd go over there and he'd be reading the paper or something. He said, "Hand me the fiddle, son, get that guitar."
Did you play by ear? I mean,
Yeah.
Could you pick up music by ear?
Yeah.
Now, that song called Maggie, would you be able to play that? Do you still play? I mean...
Well, not unless I have to. I got to work ain't here. I've had lots of fun in my lifetime playing. Lots of fun. Oh, and I played with some guys that was tops. Back, I'd go to them bluegrass festivals. My folks would always sing a song at funerals. It's called "Where the Roses Never Fade." I was over there one night, and Doyle Lawson and Ricky Skaggs, they was playing for a band out of Garland down there. And we walked up, and there's an Indian man and woman singing. I had a mandolin strapped around the neck, and I just got in there with them, you know. And Ricky Skaggs, he was playing a mandolin, and Doyle Lawson was I don't remember what he had, a banjo. I believe he had a guitar. But anyhow, we got playing this Indian man and woman there. Directly she asked me, said, "You know a song called 'Where the Roses Never Fade'?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." "What gear you wanted in?" She said, "I wanted key of D." Well, I just cranked her off in the key of D, you know, and I had a record of it at home. The people singing it was named Jackie and Arlene Vaden. I never will forget it. That Indian man and his wife could sing it note for note, just exactly like that record I had. And when they got through singing that song, I said, "Well, I've got y'all's record of that." She said, "You ain't got our record because we ain't never made none." I thought that was something odd that they could sing that song exactly the way that record went.
But they had heard the record, though.
Probably not.
Oh, not? Well, were they picking it up from your playing it?
No, they already knew it.
Oh, they already knew it?
Yeah, they just wanted me to kick the song off on
Okay, but they already knew.
Oh, yeah, they knew it. I've had a mighty good time with them going to them things, them people singing. They'd gang up. Sometimes they'd sing 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, get singing them gospel songs. Man, you talk about it. I've heard some people sing that you'd think you was in heaven, they could sing as good. Never, never.
I am going to a city where the streets with gold are laid, where the tree of life is blooming, and the roses never fade. Here they bloom before a season.
Boy,
Now, do you still attend church at the Ivanhoe
Oh, yeah.
Baptist Church?
Yeah.
You've lived there all your life, I guess.
well, I've been there for 65 years.
Yeah, in that church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
When you were going to hear music, was your wife going along with you? Did she enjoy
Well,
it?
my wife was a registered nurse for 32 years. And when they started that Bluegrass Festival down there at Hugo the year we married. And I was going to go down there, but it started raining. And we just turned around and come back to the house because it wasn't no use going down there and it raining. Now, I have been down there when it come a flood. But the next year, for the next 36 years, I was down there every year. Whenever they'd started, I'd be down there. Well, so of course, sometimes I couldn't get off work for a week, you know, to go down there for the whole week. But I loved every minute of it. Man, I've heard them sing them church songs. It was just like being in heaven. I mean, these people that you never even dreamed could play. They could play better than anybody you ever heard on TV. I used to know a guy. He lived at Denison. I don't know what the guy done. He didn't talk much, but he liked that. He loved that music. But he wouldn't play. And so one night we was playing. He was up there. We was playing out there for that west of town, west of that underpass up there, and this little church building out there. They'd quit having church there, and we'd gang up on some on the weekends out there at night and play. And me and some more boys down here was up there one night. We was having a jam session out in the yard. And years before, I'd been up at Denison, and there's some little old boys. One of them was trying to learn to play the banjo. One played the guitar. The other little boy, he was about 6 years old, and he was trying to learn to play the mandolin. Anyway, they was a bouncing around there playing, you know, and I got to showing him, you know, how to make them chords on that mandolin. Next time I run across him, he was over at Blue Ridge. And he asked me and this guy that I was playing with, he said, "Would y'all teach me how to play Cripple Creek?" I said, "We sure will. Just come on out here and away from the crowd." We got him out of the house and got out there about 100 yards out there. I got that mandolin tuned up for him. Showed him how to make every note. And I said, "Now you just follow the banjo picker." And I said, and watch my fingers. And I said, "We'll learn you how to play that." Well, it wasn't just a few minutes. We had him playing Cripple Creek up one side and down the other. Well, directly the guy come out there hollering and said, "You seen that kid out here with a mandolin?" I said, "Yeah, we got him." He said, "Well, tell him to get in here. It's time for them to play." So we took off, went in there to the building. when they got up there to get ready to start playing, they was gonna let this kid play first, a little bitty boy. And he liked to clog with his so anyway, he told me, he said, well, we're gonna play Cripple Creek. And I mean, he fell into that Cripple Creek. And I mean, he done a real good job for not knowing nothing about one of them things, you know. And oh, everybody just went crazy about that kid playing that mandolin. Well, it was about 20 years later, I was up there one night. And me and these boys was playing, and we looked up a minute, and here come up one of them big fancy buses. And they're from Nashville. They come whooping in there. This old boy got off the bus and he said, "Bring the instruments, boys. This is the guy I've been telling you about for 20 years. He come over there and shook hands with me, you know, and he said, "We're going to play Cripple Creek. You want top or bottom?" I said, "Don't make no difference." I mean, he remembered all them years. Yeah, he said, "This is the guy I've been telling you guys about for 20 years.
And it was you.
Yeah.
Taught him how.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Odd things happen in life.
Incidentally, this is all about Mickey's birthday. How many? 40. 40. Well, that's a good, nice round figure.